Hello everyone. Welcome to episode 2 with a new element to add to it because Daniel and his dad are awesome.
Well, it's really just my dad.
Yeah, but you set it up.
I don't think we're supposed to look at the camera though. It's like acting, right?
Is it? I don't know.
I don't know.
Man, I'm trying to think of any I know a lot of podcasts have a video element. I'm trying to think of any of them ever look at the camera. It's gonna be hard for me
Maybe
to
they
ignore it.
do when they're reading their advertisements.
Yeah, that's
Pete's
a good point.
coffee. It's great for the soul. Puts hair on your chest.
Whose coffee?
Pete's.
Is that your dad's name?
No, you never heard of Pete's coffee?
Oh no.
This is Pete's coffee. It's really good.
Oh.
You don't drink coffee black though, do you?
Mm-mm.
Oh.
Matter of fact, I put sugar and then went back to put more sugar, and you had to give me more cream because I was afraid to use all your parents' cream.
Yeah. Well, see, now if they hear this, they're gonna know when I said I took it all. They're gonna be like, "Well, Daniel is just a liar." I'm like, "Yeah." Did it take you 30 years to figure this out? No.
Well, you poured it.
All right, I feel like we should start here now.
All that other stuff's cut. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah, we can start here.
All right, cool.
So, welcome to episode 2 of not Once Upon a Podcast. As the image most likely attached to this account and video clearly state, this is now story time with Daniel and Chris.
Chris and Daniel.
Chris and Daniel. We did not do our due diligence and research Once Upon a Podcast before the first episode. So although the intro includes, or somewhere in there, it includes that title. I don't remember if it's the
It's the
beginning.
intro.
Okay.
You're like, welcome to Once Upon a Podcast. You turned super Canadian when you said that for some reason.
I was from Boston for a minute. But yeah, this is no longer named that. That's fine. It's all right. I like story time, and I think it fits with what we're doing.
Yeah. Talking about stories.
Yeah, and
at a time.
I was.
The way you laugh so hard at all my jokes just cures my depression.
Well, cheers to that, I guess.
Oh, I just put it up. Wait, I missed the cheers. Okay,
here, we'll cheers.
Oh, there we go. I was really hoping coffee would just spill everywhere after that.
That'd be a cool little sound effect to add in our intro as the coffee mugs.
There you go. Maybe we'll just take that clip out and just be like, bing, welcome to story time. Bing.
Hey, there you go. See, you're witnessing us build this as we go. You're going to look back on this in a year and be like, wow, look how far they've come.
Chris, who are you talking to? We're the only people here.
I don't know. I really love breaking the fourth wall.
You've been doing this whole time, and I'm like, is he okay?
He's just talking to the door. But yeah, so today we're gonna touch on one of my favorite story elements.
Okay.
A good old fashioned plot twist.
Oh.
The old switcherooski.
Yeah.
The big shebang.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's other ones.
There probably is. You might have exhausted the list, though.
Yeah, I exhausted it after Big Switcheroo or whatever I said. But yeah, we're going to touch on a good old-fashioned plot twist today.
Right.
As a writer, I'm going to ask you first before we delve into, the movies and things like that. As a writer, as someone who has
a writer of horses.
Well,
of chariots.
I'm thinking more like W and T than R&D.
What?
Writer with W-R-I-T rather than R-I-D.
I can't spell.
Wow, are you sure you're a writer?
No.
Who wrote your books? No, but as someone who's written multiple books, kind of a double question here. Have you ever included a plot twist in one of your books? And if so, or even if not, have you ever tried? Is it difficult to write one?
I include them all the time.
Okay.
They're my favorite thing to write.
That's like your favorite. Okay.
It's hard for me to write it without putting one in. And I don't know where I got that from because all of my favorite stories, like my fantasy stories, fantasy doesn't really have, well, I don't know if I should say that. I'm thinking classical fantasy, like the classics that started the genre. There's no real plot twist in Lord of the Rings or in Narnia, other than maybe the resurrection.
I'm about to really throw myself out here to the audience.
Oh no.
I've never read or seen any of the Lord of the Rings, but well, I've seen the first one. I've seen the first movie. You knew this.
I did
You've
not.
been mad at me for years about this.
Well, I have short-term memory loss.
Oh, that explains it. Yeah, no,
It's a
yeah.
good thing you've seen Lord of the Rings, though.
At least you've seen that.
Yeah.
I thought that, I guess, light spoilers. I thought that when Gandalf comes back as Gandalf the White or whatever,
Oh, that's
that's
true.
a plot twist.
Yeah, well,
I thought. I don't know if that's agreed upon within the fandom or not.
I mean, I don't know about that. But I've never really, I don't know. This is an interesting thought because like, what is a plot twist? Because I'm thinking a plot twist is when you are expecting one thing and it just flips completely in the different direction, where your expectations are totally subverted, and every element, I mean, every story to some degree subverts your expectation because you get new information about what the characters have to overcome to get what they want. Um, but like a plot twist to me is something like where you're like the whole story, or not even the whole story, but a good chunk of the story is building up towards you thinking this character has to do this, and then a plot twist happens, and it's just way from left field where you're like, I didn't see that coming. Which
Yeah.
Gandalf, I never considered that a plot twist because my jaw was never on the floor. Like, well, I don't know. Actually, it's been a long time since I
I was
saw
gonna
that
say
movie
since
for
the
the
first
first
time you
time,
watched it, though. I
and
mean,
I was little too.
oh, then it definitely got you. Then you might
Well,
have forgotten, but I had to have gotten you.
well, actually, I don't think it did because,
Really?
well, for one, they showed it in the trailers.
Oh,
So,
yeah, that'll ruin it.
yeah. But I think they did that because everyone, like the fan
The
base,
books had already been. I
yeah,
mean, everyone knew.
like everyone, they're showing you like, oh, they're gonna bring, but
I think
still,
I
I
think if
didn't.
anything, those trailers at the time were more showing people like, look how faithful we're gonna be to these books you love.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very true. Boy, it's sad how far we've fallen.
Oh my gosh. On that quick note, have you heard about? Well, I guess you don't probably care. You're not a huge Mistborn fan, but the Mistborn movie is like back to like ground zero. It got like it was almost in like pre-production from what I understood. It was like
I didn't
had
know there was a movie.
had some casting attached to it. Oh yeah, they've been working on it for a while, and then something happened, and now it fell all the way back down to the ground.
Dang.
Kind of sad. I think those would be great films, like a good solid three, a good trilogy of movies. That'd be
We'll
really fun.
see, because we had this discussion last time. I was talking about the difference between film and books,
Hmm.
and I couldn't get through the second book, and
Right.
so
Oh
I'm
yeah, and you did say it's easier for you to just plow through a movie than
yeah,
that's okay. That's fair.
yeah.
That's fair.
It's just it's I have such bad reading comprehension, so it's such a chore, and it's like if I'm not interested, it's like I want reading, especially because I write. I want reading to be associated with something that's fun,
Right.
where it's like I can't wait to get back into this book. The book I'm reading, the series I'm reading right now, is like that.
So, so you don't really dig it when like, and I mean, obviously every character, every plot needs some obstacles. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying you don't really dig it when the author delves too much into like kind of like a almost slow, like depressing place for the character. Like that pulls you out.
Well,
Or
no, if it's serving the story really well, like
okay.
if I'm into the story and the characters, that might actually be something that really, I don't know why, but I'm like really drawn to when characters like fail really hard,
Oh yeah, I mean,
and then they overcome it,
because you never see it hardly.
Do you know what movie does that the best I've ever seen ever done in a movie? The Pursuit of Happiness.
That is true. I've only seen that once, and I will probably never watch it again. That was a hard one to
I
watch.
watch it all the time.
Really?
Oh yeah, I love it.
Man, okay, you're more of a glutton for it than me. I mean, I'm like you. I mean, I like to see it's more interesting when they fall from a place and have to work back up because you're like, man, how are they gonna get out of this?
Yeah.
But man, that movie was just like he would fall and he'd like climb up like a foot and then he'd fall 3 more feet and
I
then
know.
he'd climb up like another foot and then he'd fall 10 more. I'm like, golly,
I know.
how much more worse can this dude's life? I mean, and it
Yeah.
ends well, but I mean, I was like, oh my gosh, how much longer is this movie?
Yeah. I know, it's hard to get through. It's like you're just sitting there like, "Oh my gosh." But then when he finally it overcomes, it like
Oh,
soars.
it hits you in the heart.
Yeah, you're
Oh,
like, "Oh." And then he
and I'm
goes
gonna be honest,
outside.
I'm not the biggest Will Smith fan.
Yeah. Yeah, me
I
neither.
don't know about you, but he's okay. But that movie, if there's a movie I'm going to give him credit for some range, it'd be that one.
Yeah,
Because most of the other time, he's kind of like The Rock to me. He just plays the same character over and over.
that's true.
Um,
Funny thing about
People are
that,
going to hate that I said that probably,
I
but
don't think so. I think most people would agree with that.
I
We'll
hope.
see. We'll see. If our 17 listeners go away, we'll know.
He hates Will Smith. This podcast is bogus.
I forgot. Oh,
All our listeners are surfers in California.
dude. I don't even like stories, but these guys are dope. I keep losing my thought.
Sorry.
Oh, on the note about Will Smith playing the same character, Chris Gardner, the actual person, didn't want Will Smith to play him for that very reason. He was concerned because he was like, Will Smith is like an action, like super awesome,
Like comic.
smooth. Yeah, he's kind of a comic too, but like, I think like I Am Legend is like perfect, like Will Smith.
Yeah.
Or even Deadshot.
Oh yeah.
That's
yeah.
probably like peak Will. Like if you had to guess what's the most Will Smith role, probably something like that.
And I think it probably was his first action role Independence Day, because that's an older movie,
Oh
and
yeah,
he was young in that one.
it might have been his first.
That might have
action
been his big. Like I know he did some comedic stuff before, but I'm saying like his big first action role. I'm wondering it might have
Yeah.
been it, but he did well. I mean, that was a blockbuster, so that's probably what got him on that path. But
That's true.
anyway, okay, so you can't write a book without plot twists, plural.
Yeah.
Or how hard are they to write?
Usually just one big one. It's not like
Okay.
multiple,
I
but
thought you like to sprinkle them in there.
sort of, but like usually there's like one. It's like I feel like I gotta just make you think that this. I gotta make you think this person is not who he says he is, or something, and then it turns out he is, or turns out he's even worse. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
So it's just something like that. I don't know. As I'm writing, I start feeling like this guy's got to be a bad guy, or this guy's got to be a good guy. You know, something like that. I don't think they're hard to write because they just kind of like. I think every writer has their strengths and weaknesses and things that they're drawn to, and I think the things that you are drawn to are the easiest to write because they're just like they just kind of come out of you. It's
Right.
like, oh, I know I got to take the story in this direction.
Right.
You know.
So you don't really struggle with the setup or the payoff of a plot twist.
Not really.
So let me ask this.
I mean, they're all terrible, but I do them.
But I can do them, no problem. Does a story have to have that? Like, does
No.
every good story have to have some element of subversion or a plot twist?
Well, this goes back to the initial question that got raised when you brought up Gandalf: is what do you consider a plot twist? Because if you're talking about like, I think of course the characters have to encounter new information that raises the stakes or changes the game in some kind of way, but I don't think that you have to have a plot twist where it's like, wow, I did not see that coming. That came out of left field. I don't think there's plenty of stories that don't really have that. I'm trying to think of a story that like, I don't know. I mean, now that you mention it, I'm starting to think like there's parts in almost every story where like a character. Okay, here's a good example of this: the Infinity War. Whenever the children of Thanos are attacking Vision and Wanda in Scotland, and then Captain America shows up, like he steps through the shadows, and it's like, yeah, Captain America.
Yeah.
Would you consider that a plot twist? That's a revelation. It's a subversion. It changes the stakes in that fight.
In that scene, right? Because
Yeah.
you're like, oh, they're about to die.
Yeah.
And then that's interesting. I see what you're saying. Normally, I would say no. Like to me, that's just we're introducing character. Like that's just plot. But I see what you're saying. For that scene, it really changes, like you said, the stakes of that scene, and it really shifts the weight in their favor.
Yeah.
It went from they were completely outnumbered and outmatched to, oh, we're gonna kick y'all's butt now. Like they did not struggle at all after that. So that's a good point.
Yeah, so
that's a really good point.
It depends on what you mean. If you mean, I would say it's not a plot twist because it's not like it's out of his character to show up at that moment or anything.
Right.
It's not like he's doing something unexpected. We all knew Captain America was going to show up in the movie at some point and be on the good side. A plot twist would be like if you found out he was actually working with Thanos.
Right.
You know.
Like Hydra Cap.
Yeah. Oh. Well, I don't see. Once again, I don't know if that was a plot twist, but in Endgame when he's like "Hail Hydra" in the
Oh,
elevator,
right.
that was like unexpected.
Well, that was actually a nod to in the comics.
Oh, really?
There was like a thing where you found out that like for a long time Cap has been like a sleeper agent for Hydra. Like they had got a hold of him, and so that was like a nod to him being Hydra Cap. Yeah.
Wow.
There's rumors that he's going to return. Well, they're going to return for Secret Wars, but there's rumors that he's going to play a normal Cap and Hydra Cap for like a cameo in Secret Wars.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So my guess is they're going to go back to the 50s where Captain America is.
Probably, and somehow they get like a hold of him, and you
No,
know
I-
how
no,
Bucky
saying
had the
like I'm saying like the Avengers good guys are going to at some point end up in the 50s after Captain America
well,
went back,
Secret Wars. Not to like delve too much off, but real quick,
or 40s. I mean,
is it's a bunch of different universes that kind of are like on the verge of colliding, and if they collide, I think it's called an incursion. If they collide, like one or both get destroyed, like they just cease to exist. And so because there's like too many of them, this guy called the Beyonder, which I think in the newer run of the comics, it's actually Doctor Doom who does most, if not all of this, but he like sets up a planet called Battle World and just pulls like key characters from all these universes and puts them on Battle World, and they fight for their universe's existence.
wow,
Yeah.
that's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, that's what they're building towards right now with like introduce like Avengers Doomsday and Fantastic Four. They're bringing in Doom, and they're setting up for like 2027 or something, or 28, or maybe both. They're doing like a Secret Wars, like probably another two-parter, kind of like how Infinity War and Endgame were. It's going to be a massive. Every character you've ever seen in a Marvel thing will be in those movies.
Wow.
And I mean ever. Like since we were in elementary school and like watching the old X-Men movies and the Tobey Maguire, Peter Parker and all of them will be in those movies.
Even the Michael Keaton Batman?
Yeah, probably. I can't wait for those jokes to start back up again. Whenever No Way Home was like teasing all this stuff, it was like, oh my gosh, this person could be in it, this person, and then it just built and built to where there's like, oh, King Kong's gonna be in the new Spider-Man. Oh my gosh, Darth Vader's gonna be in the new. Man, those were really funny.
If they, because Disney owns both, if they put Star Wars as part of the multiverse,
That'd be wild.
that would be wild.
That'd be wild.
Oh, speaking of this, have you heard of Karate Kid Legends?
Yes, it looks pretty good.
Dude, they're putting the same universe. Like,
Yeah,
that's genius.
It looks pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie, it looks pretty cool.
I know. I'm usually the kind of person who's like, can we do something new, something original? Do you watch Cobra Kai at all?
I've been wanting to. I haven't, but it's been something I've been wanting to watch.
All right. Well, I want to hear your thoughts when you watch it, because there's like 6 seasons, and
Okay.
the last season. Well, the last season came out. I'm actually very angry with the way that they did this. I love Cobra Kai. It's got like about 50% of it is super cheesy and like
It's
bad
like a teen
dialogue.
drama, right?
Yeah, and I hate that part of it. But the some of it, like the rest of it, is so good that I'm just drawn toward it. It's really cool the way that they like subverted. Well, there you go. I don't know. I wouldn't consider it a plot twist, but the way that they subverted the perspectives in the first season that set up the whole show in a way that's like, wow, this isn't how I remember it playing out in the movies, and the way they call back the old movies. And what I really like about Daniel is they didn't have him just become Mr. Miyagi. One of his struggles is trying to figure out how to be like Mr. Miyagi but still be true to himself. And I really like how they did that, because a lot of times they just kind of,
he kind of comes in as not like a villain, but like the antagonist to the original movie's bad guy being the protagonist in the show, right?
Well,
like he's kind of a down on his luck guy. No one, like everyone in the town loves Daniel because he won the thing, and he's like a car salesman or something. Like I've seen some of the trailers, like I can piece certain things together. But so he not that he was a bad guy, but he was like successful. The other guy's like down on his luck, and it's like, oh, you feel bad for this dude, like he peaked in high school kind of thing, and he's like kind of a bum now. And
that is pretty much what it is.
Yeah, it looked really interesting. The first trailer I ever saw for season 1, I was like, that looks really good. But
Yeah.
I just never got on it for some reason. But it does look really good.
It is good. Well, I don't. I'm interested to see if they're gonna put Cobra Kai stuff in this new Karate Kid Legends
Oh,
movie.
they have to.
Yeah, so
You have
you
to.
might have to watch the series. But
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. Yeah.
I gotta complain a little bit because they were like last season coming out. They did this earlier this year, 2024. So we're like, okay, because in my opinion, the show should have ended at season 3, at the end of season 3.
Okay.
It had the perfect ending spot, and it was like, this is good. Season 4 was still really good, and then season 5 was pretty good. This last season, I thought it was as good as it possibly could have been while still keeping it going.
Oh, okay.
Like, if you're going to keep it going, they did as good as they possibly could.
Right.
But it should have ended at season 3. So what frustrated me is because I've been looking forward to this grand finale. I'm like, it all seemed like it was coming to a head at season 3 in a way that it hadn't before. But then what they did is they were like, all right, last season coming. So then they only released half the season, and we didn't realize till we got through like the first 5 episodes or something. And then we were like, oh, this is the rest of the last season is coming in December. And then we're like, all right, or in November. So then we were like, all right, now we got to wait a couple more months. So then we finally get it and we watch it. And then at the very, very end, they ended on a huge cliffhanger and they're like, final episodes coming soon. And we're like, how can you? My whole problem was the way they advertised it.
Right.
Like, you advertise it as the final season. I've been waiting for this conclusion.
Yeah.
And now you should have just.
Plot twist.
Yeah, there you go.
It's an example of a bad
way
one.
to do it.
Yeah.
But
I don't get what's with all these streaming services breaking these seasons in halves like this.
I hate it.
I think they got it from Walking Dead.
Mm.
I don't know if you ever watched that, but Walking Dead used to do this thing where they would like release weekly episodes for half a season. They'd get to like through like October, and then going into the holiday season, they would take what they called a mid-season break, and it would always do this thing. It kind of became a meme how like the only important episodes of Walking Dead were the first one of the season, the mid-season finale, the mid-season first episode, like when it came back, and then the last episode, and everything in between was like filler because you're just working towards building up to those 4 episodes. And it worked for a while, that formula, but like when people started to notice it, it got like really tired really quick.
Yeah.
And I never did finish watching the show because of that, so I don't even know if it got any better or not. I've seen some people say yes, some people say no, but they were the first ones I've ever heard of doing that in the middle of a scene, just like walking away and coming back.
Yeah.
And for that, I was more like forgiving about it because it was on cable, and I think they were like filming week to week to like keep these things up. And so I was like, okay, yeah, give them a break for the holiday. You made it through October, let them, and then it would come back in like February, so like after the new year. But then like now all these like Cobra Kai, like all these shows that get dumped on Netflix and stuff, like they dump the whole season pretty much. I think Prime is the only service that I know of that releases weekly episodes anymore. Disney Plus and well, no, I think Disney Plus does it too. So maybe Netflix is the only one that does the whole thing, but they always do it. So why are we splitting it up? I don't understand. Prime did that with Invincible season 2. We waited like 3 or 4 years for the season, and then when it came out, they were like, "Oh, here's half. We'll give you the other half in like a few months." What?
Yeah.
Why?
I know.
Just give us the whole thing at once.
I know.
We'll wait a little longer at that point. I mean,
Yeah,
we've waited.
exactly.
But yeah, I don't know where that came from.
I
But
don't either.
regardless,
My wife actually, I stopped watching after season 3 with Walking Dead because it just lost interest. But well, also I don't really like zombies. It's just I'm not into them. Although the show was kind of well written up until season 3. But my wife, when they released the last season, my wife like stomached through it because she just was really interested because she had invested so much in it. And then they ended apparently they ended the show on a big cliffhanger, and now they're having 3 spin-off shows.
I've heard that.
And it's
one with Rick and Michonne, who I thought Rick was dead.
Yeah.
One with Daryl.
Yeah.
And then one with I don't even know who the other one is. Come to think
Carol,
of it.
maybe? I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's so ridiculous. Like, wow, you just made us for 11 years. I say us. I quit after season 3. But you're making your fans wait for that finale, and now you're going to drag it out for 3 more whole seasons?
Yeah.
Like, that's the wrong way. the way Disney's doing it with Marvel is really good because there's no real like they conclude the parts you're expecting to be concluded. Like
Yeah.
Endgame concluded everything
Yeah.
for that phase
Right.
of the MCU. So you're still wanting more movies, but you don't feel like you were like, oh, if you want the actual end, you got to wait another year.
Yeah.
You know, that's
Well, and that's like why people like you, because I'm sure there was plenty of people that felt how you felt, which was I'm taking a break after this. Like
yeah,
I got my conclusion to this story. It was epic. It was large. It was years in the making. I'm gonna step away from these movies for a bit. And I mean, you watched a couple. Like I know you watched No Way Home,
oh yeah,
and
I
like
gotta watch those.
yeah, I mean, and I know you recently stepped in and watched like Shang-Chi and stuff, but you've been able to do it at your own
Yeah,
pace. And I agree with you. That's a better way to do it. Even though a lot of people have issue with how Marvel releases stuff and all this. Oh, you got to do all this homework to watch them. Not really.
not really. No, I actually love it because you can watch just the Avengers trilogy and not be lost in the story.
I agree.
But you have all these branching storylines that if you're into it,
Yeah.
you have like years worth of content. I think that's a great way to do it.
Yeah. But so let me ask this.
No.
Okay. Dang it. Let me think of something else. So we talked about you watched the Lord of the Rings very young.
Yeah.
Do you remember like around that time, like when you're a little kid, or even I mean maybe it was later in life, do you remember your first experience with like a mind-blowing plot twist? Like one that just made you go, "Oh my gosh, I need more movies that do that."
Yeah.
Because I mean, you say that's like your thing, that's what you're drawn to. So I'm sure something at an early age had to grab you with one.
That's a really good question. I don't know if I can remember my first experience, but I know when 24 was around the show, my family.
You've told me about that.
Yeah, my family every Monday night when it came out would all watch it together as a family.
Yeah.
There were a lot of plot twists in that.
Okay.
That really got me.
Right.
And I was like,
right.
I loved that stuff.
I'm thinking for me, and I think I told you this maybe even on the last episode. I can't remember if we discussed it on or off mic, but I didn't watch a lot of movies growing up, so it wasn't until much later but we did watch a good bit of like TV and stuff. And I think for me, like one of my earliest experiences was being in like middle school and watching Chuck with my family.
Okay.
You ever watch Chuck?
No.
That blows my mind. So it was a show that came on NBC. I think it was like Mondays or Wednesdays or something like that. But it was a guy he's like a total nerd. He worked in the Buy More, which was like their in-universe version of a Best Buy. And he worked for the Nerd Herd, the Geek Squad.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
He worked for the Nerd Herd, and he was real down on his luck. He lives with his sister, like, and he's heartbroken over this girl. He's going nowhere. And he finds out that his college roommate, Bryce, died. The whole first episode kind of ends on the like kind of foot cliffhanger, whatever, footnote cliffhanger. He gets an email from his old roommate that's dead. And he's like, what? Like, they haven't spoken in years. And when he opens it, like all these like thousands of images just start like flashing on his screen. And like you see, he's just standing there looking at it. And then like you see this like out his window of his bedroom, like the sun going down and turning to night. And he's still standing there. And then it like comes back up and it's morning. And like finally the thing ends. And he's just staring at his computer. And then he just like falls over flat on the floor. And come to find out, Bryce sent him this thing. It's called the Intersect, and it's now in his brain. And only like certain people could like survive it. But like Bryce knew Chuck would be able to like hit, because Chuck's like really, really, really smart. Knew he would be able to handle it. And so what it is, it's a bunch of encoded images that the government had in a database that like they all meant something or were related to some like super, super like redacted, heavy, top secret stuff, terrorists and, arms dealer stuff. I mean, all kinds of stuff. And all those images now are gone and they're in Chuck's head. So like
Wow.
if he's out and he like looks at someone and they're in that database, it like triggers all these things in his head and he like knows everything about them. Like he knows their whole file that the government's compiled on them, like what they do, who they are.
Wow.
So this nerd, this down on his luck nerd who works at the Best Buy basically gets brought in by the government and he gets given these two handlers. Uh one's like super like heavy duty Marine Corps type, and one's like a beautiful like blonde like espionage more spy type. She's for the CIA and he works for the FBI. And because both parties have interest in this case, so they come together and they all report to the actual like general of
Mhm.
the military. And it's like they're there to make sure that he's the asset, that he's protected, but they have to bring him out on missions because they don't have the files. He has to identify.
Wow.
Super cool show.
That's a really interesting idea.
And the plot twists galore. I mean, man, and it was so funny. It was you can imagine the hijinks
Oh,
that
yeah.
ensue
Yeah.
with this. He's got his stupid nerdy friends at the they're all idiots. They're all dumber than him. They're
Yeah.
morons. And you got these like super intelligent, could kill you with a pencil CIA, and they're like, talking big and bad to them and stuff because they think they're all that.
Yeah.
It's so funny, man. It is.
I gotta check it out.
It's on Prime. I
Okay.
think it's free on Prime. It's not even one you got to buy.
Wow.
So good. Zachary Levi is Chuck.
Oh, I didn't know that. I love Zachary Levi.
Yeah, he's Chuck. That was as far as I know, that was his first big role.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll have to check that out. I can imagine him being funny.
he is so good.
Yeah.
So good in that show. But yeah,
Have you seen American Underdog with him?
no,
Really?
I've never heard of that.
Oh, dude. That's
Okay, is that a movie?
Yeah. It's about Kurt Warner, the football player.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about. I've
Yeah.
seen bits and pieces. I haven't seen the whole thing.
It's a great movie.
It looked really good, and I mean, I enjoy football and stuff. When I saw the trailer, I was like, man, he's in it, and it's a football movie. I have to see that.
Yeah.
And somehow it went under my when it got released, it kind of went under my radar. I just don't even remember when it came out, but
Yeah.
I never went to go see it. But I should check that one out too.
You definitely
Is he
should.
really good in that one? Or?
Oh yeah, he's
Okay.
great. I love Zachary Levi.
But I was gonna say to kind of segue here so for this podcast, you asked me to watch a specific film.
I'm so excited about this.
And I was going to segue with Chuck in that show. One thing Zachary Levi to me like excels in that show is just some of his like physical acting
Mm-hmm.
and like how he can portray certain things. Like, man, when you watch it, when he flashes on something, like the look he does with his face, I mean, it's just crazy the stuff he could do. He's very talented. And it's one thing that kept popping in my mind last night at 1 a.m. while I was watching Vanilla Sky that you asked me to watch with Tom Cruise. That, man, I've never seen Tom Cruise as like a physically gifted actor. I mean, he's great emotionally.
Yeah.
Not saying, and I mean, I'm not saying he's bad physically. I mean, I love the Mission Impossible stuff. He's a very convincing action star,
Mm-hmm.
but this is not an action movie.
Yeah.
And at times in this movie, he's very, very down on his luck.
Yeah.
And man, the physical change in his posture, his walk, how he kind of gets his jaw slack and all that after I was like, that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
The acting was next level.
Yeah.
So, since we're talking plot twists, and
By the way, spoilers for anyone who has not seen.
oh,
Vanilla
look,
Sky.
I'm just gonna go and say now, I have a list. I don't know if Daniel does. Spoilers for a few movies. If you
Yeah.
hear a title of a movie you haven't seen and you think you might be interested in watching, cut. Maybe jump to another part. But maybe watch them and come back. We'd love to have you, hear our thoughts, and you can put yours in the comments. But
That's right.
please, don't ruin a movie you want to see. But most of these are pretty old.
Yeah.
This Vanilla Sky was 2001. Wild.
Yeah.
But man, please, for myself and maybe people who've seen it, but it's been a while, or people who haven't and they don't care about the spoilers, break down Vanilla Sky. Let's talk about Vanilla Sky. Give us the
All right.
rundown.
Well, I was actually hoping to get your. I don't know if I want to break it down myself or if I want to ask you questions
You can ask me.
because
Break it down. Ask me whatever you want to do.
I love the feeling of having seen a really good movie and then someone else has just seen it,
Right.
and I want to get what their reactions were. All right. I don't know about you, but for me, the beginning was not necessarily super intriguing. It was kind of intriguing, like when he runs through the empty city. Then I was like, all right. And then obviously, like I don't really like rated R movies, so there was a lot of language and stuff that I was kind of like. I think that's actually what prevented me from watching it. But I think I heard someone like say on maybe it was online or something how incredible the ending was at one point, and I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna try and check it out. And I didn't have anything to watch one day, and so this was before Evie was born, and we were in Nashville, and I think Claire went back here to meet with some friends, and I was just looking for something to do, and then I watched it, and as the story was progressing, I was like, what is happening right now? And then the ending, the another thing, the soundtrack to that movie.
Oh yeah.
When everything is going,
Right.
it's just like, oh, like it hurts.
Yeah.
You can feel the pain. But let me just ask this before I break it down. What are your thoughts? What were your
Okay.
Oh boy.
So.
Oh no.
No. Like, it was a
You're
roller.
about to tell me you didn't like it.
No, it was a roller coaster. It was a roller coaster. So,
Okay.
all right. At the beginning, I was hooked immediately, and I'll tell you why. And it's funny, you kind of touched on it. That scene where he's running down the empty street, I knew about that scene. I did not know it was in this movie.
Oh.
That scene is historic. That is, I think to this day, and I'd have to Google, and I'm not gonna break off to do it right now, but so please be patient with me in the comments. I could be wrong, but I think to this day, that is one of, if not the most expensive scenes ever filmed in movie history, because that is not a set. That was Times Square, and they shut it down.
Wow.
To film him driving down the empty street and then running down the road so that he would be in the middle of real Times Square. They wanted the real feel of an empty city.
That's crazy.
And it was a historic scene. Yeah. I've heard about it in a lot of movie like film breakdowns and stuff.
Okay.
So when I saw that, I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's this movie. Oh, that's so cool."
Yeah.
And then on top of that, the added fact that I was like, "What's going on?"
Yeah.
Like, this is wild. Then he wakes up again. And I'm like, oh, okay, it was a dream. Fun fact, right here.
Okay.
My brother was at the house picking up some of his.
If you're gonna tell me he spoils what happens in this movie,
He's never seen it.
Okay.
He's never seen it.
I was really worried you were gonna be like, oh, is this the movie where?
He was picking up some of his Christmas stuff from the day before, and he was watching that with me, and he had to leave to go home, and he said, I wish I could stay and watch this, but I'm gonna have to go home. But I'm calling it now. You can let me know if I'm right or not. I think the whole thing's a dream.
At what point did he say that?
Right after that part. He said, I think the whole movie's a dream. I said, okay, I'll let you know. He
technically wasn't right about that.
He wasn't. I mean,
he wasn't. Only the second half of it was. That's what.
Well, that's true.
That's what made the twist so interesting.
And see, this is why. See, I took something different away from it, but we'll get to it.
Okay.
Because I think that's wrong. But we'll get to it.
Oh, okay. All right.
I was hooked immediately, and I was really digging it.
Mm-hmm.
Up until the point where he got in the car with Julie and went off the bridge, and he got disfigured, and then everything started going bad, and Sophia didn't like it was weird because it was like he spent a lot of time away from her, kind of like how like Deadpool did in Deadpool 1. Like he just kind of stalked her but was afraid to go to her. He's like, oh, I look so different and blah blah blah. Then he finally went up and talked to her in the dance studio, and she was like, to me, it was like she was like, oh, I'm completely fine with this. Like I'm on board with this. And then the next time they met up was like at that nightclub, and she acted like she wanted nothing to do with him, and she had told Brian that she'd only ever seen him once, and then I was like, okay, well maybe this is like part of the dream or something. But then you find out later that that wasn't that was real, and I was like, what? Because the guy said the last real thing that happened was you went to sleep on the curb,
Yeah.
and which is what I'm saying. I think that's wrong because I think the implication from the first scene of the movie is the whole thing is post him dying. Like you're seeing the whole movie as like a projection of his dream in this stasis because he from the beginning he's talking to the therapist guy who's in the dream and he's telling him the timeline, and the timeline starts with the open your eyes thing, which is a repeated, like it's a refrain throughout the movie. um Not saying that like in his real life this stuff didn't happen. Maybe the back end is like things that only ever happened in the dream, but I think the whole story we're told from the perspective we're told is the dream.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, that's true because in his dream, he retains the information about his real life
Right, right,
as
right,
it actually happened.
right,
But all that stuff actually did happen not in a dream. He's just
right.
recalling it to the
Okay,
therapist.
I didn't
But
understand what you meant, but yeah. So
well, the thing about Sophia though, when he goes to the ballerina studio or whatever, I didn't get the impression that she was totally fine with it. I felt like she was acting because at one point she like looks at his face and like glances away. I felt like they were trying to communicate. She feels like she should be totally okay with it, but she is so disturbed with the way that he looks that she's not going to be able to overcome it. And by the time they went to the nightclub, on top of her already feeling that way, he started acting a little bit more.
unhinged.
Yeah, and so that was just kind of like the
Wh-
tipping point for her.
which I get all that, and I'm willing to accept all that, but the thing I have is the implication that they really only did meet once and he's crazy for remembering all of the other things since we're being told the dream. Or
No, they did only meet once.
no, 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 remember that there was the he spent a lot of time over at her apartment and stuff, and they were watching the shows and
That was all one night. That all happened in one night. They met at the party and then they went to that room together, and
right.
then he ended up following her or something and went over to her apartment, and then they were drawing together. They did all that drawing and stuff, all that time in their apartment, and then watching the show. That all happened in one night, and then the next morning, he wakes up and sees Julia is waiting for him in the car. That all happened one time, one night. It was just a really long,
Okay.
super important
Maybe it
night.
was the I'd have to watch it again and I wouldn't be opposed because it was good. But the way it was cut and edited, I felt like that was I thought it was multiple times. They were okay, so that confused me.
Hmm.
Okay, well then that does
Maybe
change
maybe
some.
it did cut some things to try and make you feel like did this happen a lot, but
Well, I think the movie is intended to be disorienting, especially on a first watch.
yeah.
And that way when you go back a second time,
Now it did show scenes with him and Sophia after the splice when he started dreaming, because
and
that at
that's where
that
they're
point,
like happy and
yeah, and they're
yeah.
at her apartment again, and they're at his apartment
Yeah.
sometimes, and
Okay,
yeah.
interesting. Um So I liked it. I was hooked. When that all started happening, I literally was thinking in my head, Daniel, what do you have me watching? This is miserable.
Oh yeah,
I'm and I think we touched on this. Like, I'm a romantic.
yeah.
I love the Notebook and Titanic and all these like love stories that shouldn't work, but they
Are you the
do.
one who's been sending me flowers?
Yes.
Oh.
And you're not responding. Um but I was like, I loved the whole, oh, he's like a rich, arrogant, like doesn't care about relationships or women, very playful with like this girl he's just kind of sleeping around with. And then like bam, he meets this girl at a party and it's like his whole life changes and she gives him purpose. And it's like obviously it's not realistic, but it's a movie. It doesn't have to be, but I really love and I loved a lot of those scenes with them together in the happy parts.
Yeah.
Their conversation is so good and it's witty and it's funny and they're dynamic. I don't know why, but one part that sticks out to me was he's in there and he's just looking at all these photos of her life on this refrigerator, and he's like, "I really like your life," and she's like, "Well, that's mine and you can't have it." I was like, "That's so layered."
Yeah.
Because he probably does look at something so simple like that coming from what he's come from, and he's like, "Man, I like that. It
Yeah.
just looks so stress-free and fun. And not only is she joking, saying, "Well, it's mine, you can't have," but she's also saying, like, "This is my life. You can't have it. Like, I'm not gonna give you me just
Yeah.
like that, just because you're you." And that's so layered, especially for a movie written in 2001. Like, it's so good.
We're so much more sophisticated now,
I know. Gosh, we're so much smarter. Have you guys been on TikTok? But like,
You want to talk about plot twists?
yeah, that's a plot twist. I loved it. And then the accident happened, and I was like, "Oh, I know he's not dead." I mean, it sits on that car smoking for like a while, and I was like, "I know he's not dead." Which, by the way, that's a very haunting shot.
Yeah.
Very haunting shot. I know one of our things to eventually touch on is like visual storytelling.
Oh yeah.
My gosh, that was a haunting shot.
It really was. That whole scene.
Yeah, no,
Like,
yeah.
you're just
That
like,
that conversation as well.
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Your body makes promises even when you don't. Oh my gosh. I
Yeah.
was like, what a lesson for someone whose whole life is about sleeping around and
Yeah.
and not worrying about the consequence. Like, that's deep. That's
Yeah.
really deep. Like, anyway, I hated that part. Like,
Yeah.
I hated that whole section of the movie. And then it kept flipping to happy things. And I was like, wait, what is going on?
Yeah.
Then his face got fixed. And the guy told him, your face got fixed. I was like, oh, I thought that was like some BS to like make him feel good to take the mask off, but I guess his face got fixed. So then I'm thinking, if his face is actually fixed here, and she takes the mask off of him, I mean, he doesn't want her
Oh,
to
you're
at
talking
first.
about the therapist told him that?
And like at one
Yeah.
point, he said, "Hey, man, if you take the mask off, like your face is fine, it's fixed."
Yeah.
And I thought
that was a genius way to set up the plot twist, because at this point you're thinking he went insane at some point. Like, something with the Sophia thing made him go insane, and he's still wearing the mask even though his face is fixed.
right,
But then there's little hints. You're like, wait, is his face fixed or not?
right,
Like he looks in the mirror and then he sees it still messed
yeah.
up.
And I thought that was just like it haunting him
Yeah.
that it happened. And then like Brian makes the joke at the dinner, like, "Oh my gosh, man, what's up with your face?"
Yeah.
I got like a seam is ripping open. I was like, it's kind of a jerk move, but it's, I mean, that's funny. But I was like, oh, it's haunting or whatever. It was wild, man. And like I said, it was a roller coaster. I enjoyed it. By the end of it, I enjoyed it. Probably a top 3 chills moment for me. One way you can always get me is if you have a character not just like break the fourth wall, but like stare at you while they do it.
Mm-hmm.
When they were up on the roof and the technical support guy said, "Your panel of viewers is waiting to see which decision you'll make," and he looks right at the camera and then it puts it on Tom Cruise's like disfigured face and he's staring right at you. I was like, oh my God, I'm the viewer. I'm
Yeah.
the panel of viewers. Oh my gosh. Like,
Yeah.
that was, again, haunting. That
Yeah.
was so chilling.
Yeah.
So, all in all, I enjoyed it. But there were parts I absolutely hated.
Well, sure. I mean, it's a gut-wrenching movie.
Yeah.
Like, I think I know where you were going, because I think you were trying to set up a point where you were saying, I loved all the romance they had, but then his face got disfigured, and then she turned to be like, I don't want anything to do with you now that you look like that.
But I couldn't pick up on if that was true or not.
Well, but were you feeling that way at all about, like, well, now I don't like her as a character, if that's really how she feels?
The scene I remember the most not liking her in was in the nightclub.
Yeah.
But then right after that, again, this is where the dream starts more flipping stuff. What she comes to him on the curb and she's like, hey, this is a desperate attempt at sympathy, but it worked. And she's like helping him up. And I was like, okay, maybe he was just acting like a psycho that night, and maybe he was too drunk, and maybe she didn't like that.
Yeah.
Because again, keep in mind, this whole time until today, I'm sitting here thinking they've spent a lot of time together, not one night.
Yeah.
And so, honestly, that really does change my opinion of even the parts I didn't like. I'm like, no, she's justified because
Yeah.
she's seen him once, and it was an intimate night, but it wasn't crazy, and nothing happened. And now he's like being a psycho in the nightclub with her. Like, that actually changes my perspective of that scene a lot. But in the moment, I'm thinking, God, what a jerk. Like,
Yeah.
and she lied to this guy and said that they've only seen each other once.
I could see why that would.
And he says, She said that. She said she's only seen me once,
Well,
which reinforced in my
sure.
head that they've spent more time together.
Well, I always took that as she's okay. That's like he's saying that's what she said about our meeting. It's not like he's saying we met more than that. It's like he was saying,
That's all that it meant to her.
yeah, it's
Oh,
like, oh, I
okay.
just met you one time.
Okay.
That's what you're gonna say. Yeah, we spent that whole night together and had
Right.
all that time together, and you're just telling people, well, I only met him one time.
Right.
That's not the full picture. I think that's the part he was
Yeah.
upset about.
There's something
But-
poetic about the playboy having his heart ripped out, though.
That's true. But the thing that I kind of liked about what they did here is exactly for the same reasons you were saying that you like the whole romance trope of the playboy finds the one girl.
Mm-hmm.
They flip it because when tragedy strikes him, you see her flaws too. She's not willing to. That's not typical for like the romance. And
That's
this is
true.
obviously not a romance movie, but for like the common like romance drama, usually it's the girl solves all his problems and she tames the beast. That's kind of the typical trope.
Yeah.
But this movie, I think, actually gives a more realistic picture. That like she's got problems too, and whenever he has his face disfigured, now you're starting to see like, oh, she's not going to solve all his problems. He's going to have to work through this on his own, and she's going to have to work through this stuff. And then the whole thing, dude, the part where he wakes up, he goes to the bathroom, and then he sees his face is disfigured, and then it's like, oh, it's a dream. And then he comes back out, and it's Cameron Diaz.
I knew that was going to happen.
How did you know that? That completely came out of left field for me.
Because as soon as she just kind of like moaned, and he was like, "Oh, I could listen to you all day."
Oh, at that point, yeah.
I was like, "That's not gonna be her."
Yeah.
So when she popped up, that part didn't freak me out. What got me was how long it went on.
Yeah.
And then and then it cuts, and I'm thinking, "Oh, okay, it's gonna be another dream." But no, he's tying her up.
Yeah.
I was like, "Wait, what is happening? Where is this going? What is happening?"
And then she says, "I'm Sophia," and you're like,
"What?"
Okay,
that blew. I was like,
yeah.
This lie. I was like, okay,
but I didn't know if she was lying. I thought because he's been in the
did
therapist.
at that point.
I didn't think she was lying because he's been in with the therapist this whole time, talking about like he did something. He obviously went insane. He's wearing the mask even though he technically has his face fixed. He went insane and he confused Sophia for Julia. And then at one point, I didn't really catch this until the end, but at one point the therapist guy says something like, well, when you're in a dream, sometimes faces of people change. And I was like, that happens in dreams. That legitimately happens.
Yeah.
Afterwards,
you were there, but you weren't really you. And
yeah.
Yeah.
What's that from again?
I'm sure a million people have said so. I don't know. I
think I thought that was a quote from something. I feel like I've heard that somewhere.
It probably is.
All right.
It's probably one of those things where I'm like, I came up with that, but really I heard it.
Yeah.
What do they call it? Like subconscious, like the thing that comics do all the time on accident, where they think they wrote a joke, but really they heard it somewhere and kind of forgot about it. You know what I'm talking about?
I think that's just called comedy.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
But I'll tell you that I'm gonna have to watch that movie again. The writing, that has to be a book. That movie has to be based off a book. It was
actually originally a Spanish film.
I knew that.
Yeah.
I've heard about that. Where did I hear about that? Somewhere I read that, and I don't know if it was before or after you told me to watch it, but somewhere I read that Penelope Cruz is in both.
Yeah.
She played in that one, and then she came into, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
But there were little things that were clearly like rooted in some significance that I'm just like, it is no accident that the first words you hear in that movie are "open your eyes."
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Did you notice in the night at the party where Brian brings Sophia, Tom Cruise takes her up to his little room or whatever, and then Brian comes stumbling in drunk. She leaves to go get them more drinks, and him and Brian are talking for a minute, and he's like, oh, he's kind of like on the verge of like kind of being mad at him, but kind of like just like, man, look, it's whatever. Like, And in that spiel, he says something about, I'm from Ohio. We blah 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 blah. And Tom Cruise says, "You're not from Ohio." And he goes, "I know, but it's kind of played off as a joke." Later in the movie, when he's talking to the therapist, he says Tom Cruise says something about like what the board is trying to do to him, and it's like some big like technical legal term, and the therapist says, "You're gonna have to tell me what that means. I'm from Ohio. We don't have such and such and such."
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Things like that. And I was like, what the heck? Is that Brian?
Yeah.
Because again, when he said the thing about in dreams faces can change, I'm like, is Brian in the dream, but Brian in real life is him, but he's seeing him as Kurt Russell. There were all kinds of things
Yeah.
flowing through my head, man. And then there were a few other phrases that kept popping up. I wish I could remember more of them, but that for some reason I was like, the Ohio thing, like that's got to be significant. And I missed it. Even I caught that one connection, but I don't know what that means. Like I don't know what the connection means. I'm going to rewatch it for sure. But
Yeah.
I
I rewatched that movie like a couple days later after I saw it the first time.
I mean, I feel like you have to. Like
I know.
you sit with it, and then you're like, okay, now I got to see what I missed.
Yeah.
So I mean, so what else? Did you have any other like specific questions or?
I don't think so. I mean, I think that movie has multiple plot twists.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And the ending plot twist is like, it just astounds me because it was like, I had forgotten about that whole TV clip that he watched. Because they kind of played it off as like, oh, they're just watching something on the TV. Wow.
Yeah.
Which I've always loved how film can do that, because you can't really do that in books the same way. Like film can just show you something
In the
like,
background.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And that can be like a huge element later on.
Yeah.
And you'll be like, oh, I remember seeing that thing. And it's like film does that all the time, where they're just showing a TV clip, but then they're just transitioning you to the scene that matters.
Yeah.
It's hard to do that in a book, because if you're talking about a TV, it's obviously important to the story.
Yeah.
In a novel.
Have you like, for example, you've said you've seen Glass Onion, right?
Yeah.
You know how it's one of those movies where like things will play out, and then like you go back and get the perspective of a certain character, so they play out a different way. Like you see more like the behind the scenes of it.
Yeah.
When the one twin sister is like telling the detective that like she has this recording of blah 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 that she got when they were poolside.
I don't remember it.
Well,
wait. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of Knives Out, not Glass Onion. I saw that movie like 2 years ago.
Okay.
So I don't remember everything.
They're poolside, and she gets a recording and blah blah blah, and you're like, oh man, how'd she get that recording? Well, when it shows the behind the scenes thing, like from her perspective, you see her kind of walk up, and like when the two other characters that she's recording aren't looking, she kind of tosses the recorder in her sun bag, like with her bathing suit, so it's sitting right there recording them. If you go back and watch the movie and you just watch the original part, like from the perspective of the other characters, you can see the recorder fly in the bag if you look for it.
Oh wow.
You won't notice it if you're not looking for it, which is makes it more realistic that they wouldn't notice it because you didn't, and you're looking at them. But if you look for it, you kind of see it flip over into the bag.
Do you know what's funny is I actually never noticed things like that in movies ever, which I know the point you're saying is you wouldn't have noticed it unless you're looking for it. But even thinking to like look for it at some point, like that never. Sorry about that. We had some technical difficulties. On with the show.
So let's talk about plot twists.
That's all for today.
Well, I guess we've mostly touched on Vanilla Sky. I guess about as much as we were gonna. Great movie. Definitely will rewatch. Thank you for the recommendation.
I don't know what that means.
Not me either. So let's kind of move from there into other movies, other good.
I think the original idea we had was like the best plot twists ever, right?
Yeah, like what comes to mind?
I'm in the back of my head. I'm trying to think of like the most mind blowing plot twists.
I do think I kind of remember what we were talking about.
What were we talking about?
Because I still had another thing I was going to bring up. I had told you about you were talking about head hopping in
Oh,
writing.
yes. Thank you. Okay, let me finish that thought then. Hopefully, maybe I can cut it here. But so I didn't actually catch that kind of thing in movies until I was figured out about head hopping when I started writing, which is like if you're writing from one perspective, you have to stay in that perspective. Otherwise, it's considered like head hopping. Like you can't just jump to another character's perspective or jump between omniscient and then limited, like stuff like that. And when I started learning about that, I actually noticed that they did that in film too. Like they filmed it from either a narrator's perspective or like the audience's perspective
Mm-hmm.
or from a character's perspective. And I never had caught that before, and it really made me watch movies differently because I'm thinking, okay, so this is from this person. This is how this person is interpreting the situation.
Right.
I've always thought that was really cool.
Well, the other thing I was going to bring up, which is this is what reminded me, this is where we were at, because I had brought up the thing about Glass Onion, like you can see the recorder go in. Did you also know? And this isn't, I guess, really plot twist related, but it's really cool Easter egg. Did you know that on the limited, like the metal case release of the Knives Out DVD, on the front there's like the front cover is like all of the family standing together, like all the main characters of the movie like together in like a classic, like all the suspect kind of things. And on the back, there's like all the normal words and stuff, but there's like a plastic sleeve that fits over the cover that has, the like circle of all the knives and stuff in the movie. If you take it and flip it around and put the knives on the front and fit it on there like where it's even, they circle around Chris Evans' head to show you he's who did it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's
That's pretty cool.
very, very cool that they did that for the cover.
Yeah.
I've always loved that, and
I love stuff like
show
that.
it to everybody. It means nothing to them, but I think it's very cool.
Yeah, it means something to me.
Well, thank you, man.
You're welcome.
This
is why I'm your best friend.
Yeah. I mean, there's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it, huh?
I said, don't forget that again.
Don't you ever forget. I sent you the flowers.
That's true.
So, okay. So that was your point. I wanted you to wrap that up, and then let's jump back to other really good plot twists. What comes to mind first for you? I'm cheating. I got a little pre-written list. Yeah, I'm awful.
Yeah. But the listeners can tell.
Yeah, they know. The vibes are just so different.
I know. What's funny is I was just telling how much like I'm your best friend, and now I'm like I hate your guts. That's a plot twist. Anyway,
I guess.
All right. I was actually trying to think about this. I'm trying to think of like if I had to rank them or something, like what's the most jaw-dropping? I honestly think Vanilla Sky might be the biggest like wow factor for me of any movie I've ever seen or book
More
I've
than
ever read.
Sixth Sense?
Yeah, because I think I already knew about it when I watched The Sixth Sense.
Oh, so you had it ruined for you too?
Well, yeah, but it wasn't like a moment of... It wasn't like someone just said it out loud. I think I had just been hearing it. I grew up learning about The Sixth Sense. I don't ever remember it being spoiled for me.
Right.
But I just remember when I watched it, I knew how it ended.
Okay.
So I think it was such an old movie by the time I was old enough to watch it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that probably would have been the most mind-blowing plot twist. That's obviously one. But one of them that really surprised me, because you don't really see plot twists like this in movies like these, but Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah.
That one really got me.
Like, not only the kind of plot twist it is, like it's not like the kind you would think it'd be. Like it was more on the teen drama side than it was the superhero side of the movie, even though it had implications in both. But yeah, like you said, like it being a comic book movie, you just don't, like you kind of go into it kind of thinking all these characters, and yeah, that was wild. That one really got me because, especially as a huge nerd, I did not Did not see that coming.
Yeah, me
Did
neither.
not see that coming.
And that whole scene was so good. The tension in that room.
Yeah.
Like, that was such a really good scene. I loved
And
it.
and the car ride to
Oh,
the
yeah.
dance where
He's,
he
like,
where
figuring
he
out.
figures it out.
Yeah.
Because he knew immediately. Peter Parker knew immediately.
Yeah.
And then the dad's like, oh, like, why is he all freaked out? The car ride there when he figures it out.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the tension.
I know.
The his whole demeanor changes. Again, back to really good physical acting, being able to control the emotion on your face so well that in your eyes you can see it flip to like from like confusion
Yeah.
to like, oh, I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. And when he just kind of smoothly pulls the gun out and puts his arm on I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, that's wild.
That was such a good movie.
I agree. A lot of people hated it.
What? Really?
Hated that movie as a Spider-Man film. Not as a movie, but as a because they said that he's not Spider-Man in that movie. He's like Iron Boy.
Well, okay, I can see that. I mean, I did actually not like how much the suit like played into it, but what was cool about that is it actually opened the door for him to realize he actually does have to become, because Tony said the thing, if you're nothing without the suit, then you shouldn't have it.
The suit.
And then he has to learn that,
and that hits hard, by the way.
It does. And then he ends up fighting the villain without the suit.
Yeah.
So he actually does have to be Spider-Man.
I don't care what anyone says. Anyway, no,
It's just a random thought.
I don't care what anyone says. There are multiple tear-jerking moments of like real Spider-Man moments in that movie.
Yeah.
One of which, like you just said, that speech of him saying, if you're nothing without the suit, you shouldn't have it. That hit.
Yeah.
The other one is when everyone keep the bad guy. I mean, because I like the bad guys in that film too, because they're not evil. They're broke. And they're trying to provide for their families and like live a life. And they keep telling him, leave us alone.
Yeah.
Like, just stay out of our way. We're not trying to kill people. We're just like, and they were still, I'm not saying they're like good dudes by any means, but I mean, like they understood he's a young kid, even if they didn't know him at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But even after the Vulture found out who he was like, stay out of my way.
Mm-hmm.
And basically the implication was, you leave me alone, I'll leave you alone.
Yeah.
When he goes without the suit in like the pajama suit to confront him, he takes it from under the lockers and he fights the people in the parking lot, and he still goes to try and stop him. And the Vulture starts like trying to attack him with the wing things, but really what he's doing is knocking the building down on top of him.
Yeah.
The fear.
Yeah.
When he realizes, I'm not in that other suit, I can't reach out for help. I'm alone, and there's a building on top of me.
Yeah.
I might die here. And then he looks down in the puddle, and the mask is crumpled, and it's like half his face and half the mask.
Yeah.
And he starts going, come on, Spider-Man. And he
Yeah.
lifts the building off of him.
Yeah.
If that's not a Spider-Man moment, I don't care. You could call him Iron Boy all you want. That was Spider-Man. That was pure Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But
I totally agree.
That I agree with what you said. That even though him having the suit and it playing as much as it did into that movie, I think it really did open the door with him taking it and then being able to earn it back. But that's a good one. Homecoming's a good one. One that pops to my mind, because one of the questions I was going to ask you is, does it matter when a plot twist occurs? Because I say that because a lot of people, when you think plot twist, your mind kind of immediately goes to like the end, like near the end of the movie, Vanilla Sky, for example. And like you said, they're kind of all throughout it, but the ending is what really drives those other ones home, because then you realize what they were.
Yeah.
But like, that's one reason I think one of the best ones, in my opinion, is Knives Out, because it comes at like the very beginning. And so really the movie, you're like, wait a minute, wait, what? Because it's sold to you as a murder mystery, but the mystery is over within the first 30 minutes, because they're like, oh yeah, by the way, yeah, she killed him. You're like, wait, what? And as it goes on, the real mystery is like, how's she going to get away with it? Oh, wait, it wasn't her. Like all this, like I
Yeah.
love the Knives Out one.
Yeah.
What attract like is the plot twist, was the kind of subversion there what hooked you on that movie so much, or were you just
Are you talking about Knives Out?
yeah?
It's like I said, I haven't seen those movies in a long time, so
Oh, okay.
I don't really remember, but I just remember it was a really interesting and well done murder mystery. But
I've watched that one way too many times. I love that movie. My wife gets tired of me watching that movie. Not even her watch it, me watching that movie. It is so good.
yeah,
Um, I'm gonna bring up a couple that neither of us have probably ever seen, but I
but
have
you
like
know they have a twist in it, like they've been spoiled for you.
I wouldn't even say spoiled because I'm never gonna watch them. Probably,
Oh, okay.
or definitely not one of them. The other one I've always kind of dabbled with, but I'm like, it seems very intense, and if I already kind of know the ending, like if it was one of those ones where I was on the fence but I didn't know the twist, I'd probably break down and watch it. But I know the twist.
Mm-hmm.
For starters, the one I will never watch, but I got to give it credit where it's due. Saw 1.
Oh,
Do you know about that?
I don't know about the twist. I'll never watch it either because I'm not into horror at all.
Me either. Here's what I'll say: the Saw franchise, as we know it, is very, 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 very different from what the first movie was.
That's what I've heard.
It was still horror, but it was actually horror with like a story and like a theme and a crazy plot twist. So I've never seen it, so I'm not going to try and give you the frame by frame here, but I'll give you the overview. This guy wakes up.
I know.
With,
I kind of think I know. Well, go ahead and tell me anyway.
well, tell me what you know. Tell me what you know.
Well, I know that this guy wakes up. He's chained to something, and then
Mhm.
like they have to play some kind of game to try and get free, and then he ends up having to cut his ankle off.
Yeah.
Or cut his foot off. Cut his ankle off.
Right.
To get
Like
out.
at the ankle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know what the twist is.
So the whole general thing is like they're playing this like sick sadistic thing through the whole, and there's like these themes of like, from what I understand, from what I remember, I hope this isn't. I hope I'm not getting it confused with one of the other movies, because I think this is kind of a running theme through a lot of them, which is like the Saw character is like going after people who like kind of don't appreciate their life. So
Okay.
he's like putting them in these scenarios where like, well, if you don't appreciate your life, I'll make a game out of your life, kind of thing.
Oh, I see.
And I think that was also established in this first film. But the main twist is that when the guy wakes up and he's chained to another guy, they both kind of wake up in this like bathroom and they're trapped.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a key, and somehow the key gets lost. And again, I don't remember the frame by frame, but they both have to play this game. Well, I think one of them has to end up killing the other by the end or
Jeez.
something. Well, the whole time they're in there with another dead body that they don't even know how that body got there. They have no idea who it is. Like, was it something they don't remember, or like was it something that was there? Was it another victim that was there before? They don't know.
Hmm.
At the end of the movie, the body, he moves and he gets up and leaves, and he's Saul. He's the one who was putting them through everything. He wasn't dead. He was just laying there. Yeah. He was with them in the room the whole time.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good twist.
And I was like, I will never watch that, but I'm very glad I watched like a breakdown of it because someone said something about it having a twist. So I was like, I have to know.
Yeah.
But I can't watch. It's way too intense for me. And I'm like you said, I'm not a big horror fan at all, but that is really good story writing. Like, because you're wondering the whole time, like, who is the other dead guy? Are they ever going to touch on this?
Yeah.
And then at the end, it's like, oh, he's the one who set all this up, and he
That's
wanted to
wild.
sit there and watch it play out or listen to it play out.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And the other one is, which this one's, there's body horror in it, but it's not a horror. It's more of a thriller, murder mystery thriller. Is 7 with Brad Pitt.
Oh, dude, I could never watch that movie.
Yeah.
My friend told me that, when I was living in Austin, he told me like bits and pieces of it. He watched it. He was basically telling me like, dude, never watch this movie.
Yeah.
And then he told me like what the implications were and like some of the scenes, and I just like, oh, it made me sick.
Yeah.
So I watched it the next day.
Okay. and you loved it?
Yeah. I was like, dude, this is a comedy. No.
What's wrong with you, man? This is a great movie.
I could never watch that movie.
Yeah. I mean, again, just quick overview for either those who have seen it and it's been a while, or if you haven't and you don't care about spoilers. The long and short, Brad Pitt and I think Morgan Freeman
think so.
play detectives, like partners, and there's a serial killer in their town, and he's killing people. But as the bodies pop up, they realize that he's basing them off the 7 deadly sins, and it's very gross. Apparently, like the murder scenes are just like atrociously gross.
Yeah.
Um, and at the end, the twist is the murderer, who is Kevin Spacey. I guess you kind of follow him throughout the film as well. Again, I haven't seen it. Comes to the police station. They never could catch him. He comes to the police station and turns himself in. He's covered in blood, and they're like, okay. So come to find out, there is another dead, because there were 2 sins that weren't covered, and one of the ones was envy. And they go out in like the middle of this field, and there's a box, and Brad Pitt's like, "What's in the box?" Famous meme now.
I've never seen that meme.
Yeah, he's like, "What's in the box?" Like he's like freaking out because he has an idea, I guess, but it ends up being his wife,
Oh.
his wife's head.
Oh.
And so
I hate
Kevin
that.
Spacey's like last sin was wrath, and he's trying to get Brad Pitt to kill him out of revenge, like wrath for killing his wife.
Jeez.
Don't know if he does or not. The twist is really that you don't, like, they caught him, so you don't expect that Brad Pitt's wife is like dead, but
Yeah.
he killed her beforehand, then turned himself in. That's whose
That's
blood he was covered in.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's a good twist, but back to, we were talking about this last week about like the purpose of stories should be for like hope and stuff. I'm like, what's the purpose of that story, though?
The purpose in that one, I
That
think, is
song.
the twist. I think you write that whole movie to tease hope, because
Well,
the hope is, well, we caught him. That's the hope. That if you end it there, you
Yeah.
caught the bad guy.
Yeah.
But the purpose of that story is the twist of ripping the hope away that, oh my God, he killed someone that
Yeah.
we grew to like through the movie.
Yeah, it just makes you think about evil and death, and just it's horrible.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
and that's
disgusting.
why I say, like, that's one I can handle darker movies. I can, but some things are just too intense
Yeah.
for me. I
I
can only
well,
handle so much.
That's the thing, is like I can handle dark. I'm not necessarily against dark. I'm just like, you actually, I forgot, but when we were done with our podcast last time, you brought this up to me, and this is actually another good twist, is Shutter Island.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have that on your list?
Yep, it's
Yeah.
on there.
That's a really, really good plot twist.
Yeah. And a pretty dark movie.
It's super dark, yeah. And you brought this up to me because I mentioned that I like this movie, and you were like, I don't think you actually care about happy endings or something. You just care about the way those kind of darker movies are done because you loved Shutter Island. And in the end of Shutter Island, he just kind of surrenders himself to being lobotomized because he's so depressed or whatever. And I thought,
Which is essentially killing yourself. I mean,
Sure.
you will have no frame of yourself, really.
Right, yeah. And I think that's actually a really good point. And it had me thinking about it, and I was like, yeah, why did I like that movie? And I was trying to think about, like, why did it not make me feel as sick and raw as, like, for instance, something like Seven does? Or even, like, we talked about Forrest Gump. Like, the ending of that movie, even though it's, like, way less dark than Shutter Island.
Which I don't know it.
Yeah, but it just makes you feel like, that's it? It's
right.
Like, that's just, you just feel raw, and it's like, well, I don't know why, I feel that way. But then I started thinking, why didn't I feel that way after Shutter Island? Because that is a kind of really depressing and dark thing. And you mentioned earlier in the podcast, like, what if it's a warning? And I think that's kind of the takeaway that I got from Shutter Island, is it's like, it's a warning.
Yeah.
It's a warning to keep, your sanity, to understand that you have to deal with dark things that happen in the world.
Right.
Which I think is a good message.
Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, yeah, I could see where that would be a good takeaway.
I don't know if I'd have to watch it again. I should watch it again just to see if I still feel the same way.
I think you'll still like it.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a well done. There's also the fact that, like, I can appreciate really well done movies like Joker, the 2019 Joker. That's a really well made film. Even though I don't like the message of it, I don't like the movie. It's just, it's too dark, and it leaves you feeling like, all right, we're cheering for this psychopath.
Yeah.
The scene that I hated the most in that movie was when he's dancing on the steps after, like, brutally murdering that guy, and the way that they do it, it's almost like they're trying to get you to pull for him. Like this
Well,
is
of course
his.
they are. They are.
Yeah,
They are. And this is exactly why I told you I'll never watch that movie because look, I'm not above pulling for a murderer because I like the Punisher. I like the
but
Terminator.
well, I don't know if
Uh,
I'd call the Punisher a murderer.
He murders people
Well,
at its pure definition. I mean, yeah, he murders bad people. I'm not saying that I don't agree with the Punisher. Like he takes matters into his own hands, kind of thing.
yeah,
I mean,
I guess you're right.
I think it can be a scary message in the wrong person's hands.
Sure.
But he's killing people.
Yeah.
I like the Punisher.
Yeah.
I like gritty action. I like John Wick. He murders people. They're horrible people.
I've never seen that. Well, tried to watch the first John Wick and I couldn't get into it.
That's shocking to me. Why? Like, how far did you get?
To the point where they killed his dog.
Oh, well, that's why. You watch like the first 30 minutes, the most
No, no, no.
depressing part.
No, sorry. I was mixing up when things happened. It was the part when the I think he's Russian dude or whatever was telling the guy whose dog you killed is John effing Wick, and
You didn't like that monologue of him explaining who that monologue gives me chills.
I've heard that from people who talk about that movie.
That is an iconic scene.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
The fear in his voice, this mob boss, and he's like mad at his son who gets away with anything because of whose dog he knows what's coming.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's again like the Punisher. I love a one-man army. I don't care how unrealistic it is. Give it to me. I love that. And John Wick, the Punisher, Rambo.
I've never seen the Rambos either.
Oh my gosh,
I think I would like those.
dude. Yeah, they get a little crazy as they go, but the first one is so cool. He goes through that whole movie without. I'm pretty sure I'd have to rewatch it. I don't think he kills anyone. He just incapacitates because they're mostly cops, and I don't think they wanted to send the message that a war hero would come back and kill cops.
That's fair. That was made around the same time as The Godfather, right?
I want to say it's the 70s. It might be 80s.
It might be 80s.
But
still, better movie. I haven't even seen it. I know it's a better
have
movie.
you seen Equalizer?
No.
Oh my gosh. Denzel and Equalizer. One-man army.
All right.
Give it to me. I love that. And John Wick, man, I don't know. There are a couple other examples I could give. Like, have you ever seen Law Abiding Citizen?
Oh, I couldn't. After the first... Look.
It's brutal. It's brutal.
It's so brutal.
But...
maybe I should try it again. But the thing that... I don't even want to say it.
Plot twists.
Oh, was there a big plot twist in that one?
I mean...
Don't tell it to me because I might end up watching it. But
okay. I won't tell you the twist.
The thing that turns him... He's like a vigilante, right?
Kinda.
Okay, well, the thing that makes him go down that path, whatever that path ends up being, is so brutal.
The opening is brutal.
Yeah.
And it comes out of nowhere because it starts very happy tone, and without any warning, it goes into what happens. But the whole gist of that movie is he's trying to make a point. He's trying to prove how broken the system is. Because those guys who come in and do what they do, and you see it as the audience, so you know how awful it is, one of them gets off. He basically gets off with a slap on the wrist. The other one gets the death penalty. And that's why the other dude sold him out. Even though the one who got the death penalty really in that scene is the one who's more like, dude, what are you doing? Like, we were just here to like steal some stuff. The real piece of garbage who does the worst things, he's the one who gets off. So you're really mad as the audience and you really feel for this guy's pain. What he does is,
don't spoil it.
This is not the spoiler. He goes and takes matters into his own hands. I won't even get into details, and I'm just going to warn you if you do go to watch it, which I don't know, this might not bother you because of what did bother you. It's brutal what he does to this guy. It is brutal. They don't show anything, but just the implication of what he's about to do to him, it's brutal. The law gets involved. The lawyer who basically forced him, Jamie Foxx, his character, who forced the dad to take a plea deal and only get one of the guys, gets involved. They come, they detain him, and they're like, look, dude, both these guys were involved in this case with your wife and daughter. Like, we figured just enough out to like link them to you. And like, they know it's like weak, but it's close enough where they're like, we could convince it in court. Well, he goes into court, no lawyer. Jamie Foxx and them are like saying, dude, he did it. Like, he killed this dude. He murdered him in cold blood because he got off from blah, blah, blah. He argues his case and like brings up these other cases from the past and like you cites them as reasons he should get out. And the judge is like, I'm actually inclined to agree with you. And he does all this stuff.
You got me interested now. I'm gonna have to go back and watch it.
Well, just to tell you, the bottom line is he gets off, but before they end it, he starts like cussing out the judge, like calling her a fat B word, all this stuff. She's like, what is your deal? Like, you're about to walk out of here. Like, if you don't be quiet, I'm gonna hold you in contempt. He's like, this is why we're here. You're about to let me walk out the door. You're about to just let me go.
All right, well, now you've ruined the whole movie for me.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm telling you, that's the setup. That, like, if you didn't get to that part, that's the set. The rest of the movie is the crazy part.
Oh, okay. So all that happens before the movie really gets going.
Like, to me, that's all the first act. Like, that's none of that's even the meat.
All right.
I just rewatched it the other day. I love that movie. Love it.
How do you really feel about it?
I adore it.
I've never seen you flick your hand that hard when you said,
but
I
love that movie. my point in all that is, in that movie, there's a scene where they go to a guy, they're trying to get information on him. They can't find anything. And they go to a guy who knows a guy who knows, it's like real deep stuff. And I won't tell you all the specifics because I'm not trying to ruin any more if you're going to go check it out. But he gives a similar spiel, like a similar speech about him as like what the mob guy does about John Wick. And it just, those kind of things where like another character is basically telling you, hey, if you're going against this person, don't. You're dead. You're done. There's nothing you can do. Stuff like that. They do it in The Punisher season 1. The Equalizer is another go I can't believe you haven't seen. And Denzel's like playing this like old dude, and like, people, he's unassuming, like no one thinks anything, but you find out later, like there's like a scene where he just comes and like he's trying to take down the whole mob because of some crap they did, and they're like, who is this? They don't have any information on him. And they're just like, hey, look, he didn't come here to ask for this information. He came to ask for permission. Like basically saying like, he could have been like done all that. He could have killed everyone forever ago. Yeah. He's trying not to, but he came and asked for like permit. Like he wanted his one friend's like blessing of like, tell me I'm not a horrible person if I go back down this road. Oh my dude, a one-man army movie gets me every time. I don't care how played out the formula is. But there is a huge plot twist in Law Abiding Citizen that is...
Okay, I'll have to check it out.
I wish I would have told you about it before so I could have watched Vanilla Sky and you could have watched that.
There you go.
But next time I'll check in with you and I'll have to see what you think about it.
I like that.
But I'll tell you another one I got that I wasn't thinking about, but it was funny because like you don't, again, like Homecoming, you don't always expect a big plot twist from this kind of movie. Have you ever seen Pixar's Coco?
I think I have. I just don't. Is that the one where they have the dead celebration of the dead?
Yeah, the Day of the Dead, and it's like set in Mexico and all that.
I saw that years ago. I don't remember anything about it.
So the whole gist is that like the kid, I can't remember if he is, no, he's not Coco. I forget who the kid is, but he loves music and he plays the guitar and he loves to sing. And one of his like heroes is Ernesto de la Cruz. And he was like an old Mexican like guitar player. He would sing these like story songs and he loves them. But his family forbids music. They're like, no music. Yes, there's the whole tie-in of like the celebration of the Day of the Dead. He goes, it's like they portray it as like you can go into this other world, but you're like a skeleton. And so he goes and he ends up running into like the comedy relief character who's like this skeleton who's like real sad and lonely because he's like waiting for his family to come visit, but they never do. So he like tags along, but really he's looking for Ernesto, who's like his great-great-grandfather. And as they go through the whole thing, he eventually finds him, and all these antics trying to like get his attention. Well, come to find out, you need to stop.
No, you're good. Keep going.
Come to find out, Ernesto uh, is actually like a fraud. He's like he never wrote his songs or whatever, and he's actually like a horrible person.
Wow.
And it's really disappointing to the kid. Maybe the kid is Coco. I'd have to rewatch. It's been a long time for me too, but it's really disappointing to him. And then he like finds out that the like funny dude he's been running around with is actually his great great grandfather, and he's the one who wrote all the guy's songs. And he like figures this stuff out and like brings back like a photo of this guy when he was alive and pieces it together with a writ photo that his grandmother had, and it like makes her happy, and now she talks, and now the family loves music.
That's
It's
a good twist.
really cute, and I didn't expect it.
Yeah, you don't expect it from something like that.
So, you got another one?
I got a book for you.
Oh, okay.
I actually don't really like these books anymore. They're good stories, but I just have some issues with them because I can't like anything, obviously. But
well, someone's got to be a critic.
Do you know the book The House of the Scorpion by Nancy Farmer?
Maybe.
That's probably one of my favorite young adult books ever.
Man, did I read that back in like middle school?
You probably did because it was part of the I read it in the summer between 9th and 10th grade because it was part of the summer reading stuff. And it was really good. But she wrote another series. I got interested in the author after that book, and she wrote another series called The Sea of Trolls. And or the first book was The Sea of Trolls, and then I don't know if the series has a name, but
is it a trology?
It actually is a trilogy. It should be called a trology.
Yeah,
that's the name of the series, the trology.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
But in the first book, do you want to read it? I mean, I don't know if you'll be into it or not. It's like Norse mythology type stuff.
I might go back and check out. I feel like I read and I remember loving The House of the Scorpion.
It's a great book,
and I think there's a sequel to it, but I don't remember. Scorpion King or something like.
No, it's Scorpion King is Dwayne Johnson movie.
Definitely not that. Yeah. Never that.
It's called The Lord of Opium.
That's it.
Yeah,
yes,
that's the second book.
Yes. Okay.
That book. And
now I know why I made you think of this, because isn't it set in like Mexico?
It is.
Yeah.
Both of them are well, sort of. It's in the future, and there's a country called Opium that's between Mexico and the United States.
Right.
It's a part of Mexico, and this drug lord runs the place. And I won't say anything else other than that in case you want to read it.
I'm definitely rereading that.
Yeah, it's a really. I like both of the books. I think some people were let down by the second book, but I wasn't. There's a particular character and scene. There's a particular character, and then there's one scene with that character that was like a tearjerker, and it was really, really good.
Okay.
But
But the troll one
in the first book, I'll just tell you what the plot twist is.
Yeah, you can. That one I'm not as worried about.
So it's about this boy who gets captured by some Vikings. He gets basically captured and sold as a slave on their boat. But before that, there's a bard that lives in their village, and the bard is starting to kind of teach him some things before he goes off on his journey. And one of the things that he teaches you is how to see things through animals' eyes. So, you can kind of live inside the animal briefly, but if you do it for too long, you'll get lost and forget that you're a person. And
like a warg.
Yeah, I guess so. Whatever the heck that is.
It's from Game of Thrones.
Oh, I don't watch Game of Thrones. But,
have you read them?
No. It's just.
Have you watched it?
Get Out.
Another good plot twist movie.
Yeah. Oh, that's not a movie.
Get Out?
Oh, Get Out. I thought you were talking about Game of Thrones.
Well, that too.
Yeah. There's probably lots of plot twists in Game of Thrones.
Oh, there are.
So what happens is you're probably going to guess what the plot twist is immediately since I told you that. But it was set up in a way where you didn't really catch it. It's just like, okay, it's just a training scene. He's just teaching him stuff. And like a good chunk later in the story, when that's long in the past, he's on the Viking boat. And this bird that he calls Boldheart just shows up and is like really friendly to him, and he becomes his pet. And he just and every now and then Boldheart does these things that gesture towards areas, and he leads you to something. And he's like, it's just like a trusty animal friend, like they have in
animal companion kind of.
Yeah. And then at the very end of the story, he finally makes it back home, and he realizes the bard who after he got taken became the bird and was
Nice.
watching over him and trying to help him.
Hey,
And
that's cool.
it's a cool twist. Yeah, I didn't realize that he was actually. And when I saw that at the end, I was like, whoa! It wasn't like a completely changed the trajectory of the story twist, but it was the
But it
kind
was
of
a
twist.
neat little, yeah.
Yeah.
What made you kind of fall out of those books? I mean, they sound kind of like up your alley, like fantasy, YA.
They took some jabs at Christianity. That's what what it ended up being like, in a way that I didn't think was. It had some. It like I'll give it a little. I understand that sometimes they just try to make it seem like this is a world where there's a bunch of different beliefs, and
Right.
I totally get that. But it seemed like she was kind of pushing it in that direction, where it was like, it was one of those things where it was like all religions lead to heaven, and whatever religion you believe in, that's the heaven you'll go to when you die. So Vikings go to Valhalla, and wherever you go. But all the Christians in that movie are like, they're very obviously Christian, like they say they are, and then they're the worst people. So it's and his dad especially. It's another kind of like dumb dad kind of, and he's a Christian dad, so he's especially dumb. And she kind of harped on that so much that I was just like, I was finished with it.
Yeah,
and it's a real shame because she's a great writer.
Yeah,
and the story is interesting. I told you. I mean, but yeah, and then the Bard stuff got to be a little too witchy for me too. So
that's fair. Let me see. Let me look at my cheat sheet here. Have you ever seen The Gentleman?
No.
Oh man, that's another one. It's R-rated. There's definitely language, but I don't think there's any like sexual stuff or anything. It's just violence and language. But if you can handle that,
so it's just like Monday.
Yeah, yeah. Very good movie. Another one I kind of just don't want to tell you too much. I'll tell you the gist and just see if you get hooked, like with law abiding. And if you don't, I might just kind of run with it. And if you do, I'll just shut up. Matthew McConaughey plays a drug kingpin, but like strictly a weed farmer.
Okay.
He left.
All right.
He left the United States and he lives in the UK. Some part of London.
All right.
There you go. Some part of London. Some part of London or something, I think. And he like makes it big over there. Like he's got an empire, like millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of weed farms. And it's kind of like one of the little plot twists is like how he does it. Like how in the world does he run it over there without getting caught? And it's kind of cool how you figure that out. But the whole gist of the movie is he's kind of done with that business. Like he put in the work. He clawed his way up to where he's at. He's, had a rough life, but now he's kind of a rich dude over in the UK, and he just wants to retire, chill with his wife, and be rich. So he's trying to sell his empire to some younger, crazy rich dude who wants to kind of move in and take over the business. Well, the story is actually told from the perspective of, at the beginning of the movie, I don't know if you know who Charlie Hunnam is, but he walks into his house and there's a guy sitting in his dining room who starts telling him, like, they know you can tell. It's one of those like show don't tell things. You don't really know where they know each other from, but you can tell from the dynamic they know each other. They know each other by name, and the dynamic is like there's tension, like there's distrust, but there's a friendliness of like he didn't just immediately kill him for being in his house. So the whole movie is told from the perspective of this dude who's in his house has a movie script that he's trying to pitch around because he thinks that this whole scenario would make a great movie. And so he's like, let me pitch you this film. But also what he's really doing is showing him all the information he's gathered on their whole operation and the whole behind the scenes, like a blackmail thing. And he's like, hey, if you don't think this would make a great movie for me to put out to the whole world, You could just pay me to get rid of it. And he's like a real slime ball, but he's super hilarious the way that he talks to this like gangster British dude. And so the perspective is very unique of how it's told. And then there's all these different parties that come in, and it's a very interesting movie, very cool. It's by the same. It's a Scorsese film.
Okay.
So I don't know if you've ever seen Snatch.
No.
But it's kind of that same thing where it's like it almost feels kind of spastic at times, all the different like POVs you jump through, but then by the end, the way it all ties together is like, oh my gosh, oh wow. And you kind of start the movie in a place where you're like, what the heck? Like the movie starts with you just see it's Matthew McConaughey because of his voice, but you don't see his face. He walks into like a pub and he says, I want like a pint of something and an egg or whatever. And he sits down, and then you see him sit down and he's looking at his phone, and then all of a sudden you hear a gunshot and you see blood splatter onto the beer, and you're like, oh. And then it cuts to the Charlie Hunnam guy walking into his house, and you start hearing the whole story of what Matthew McConaughey is doing. And you're like, oh man, well, which one of these people like kills him to steal his business? It is cool. I don't want to say much more in case that's something, and I think it's on Netflix. Like I think you could just watch it for free. So it's a good one. It's another good one.
Two just popped into my mind.
What you got?
Wow, that's crazy.
That changes stuff.
Yeah.
Hello.
We are 12. I forgot this. Oh, okay. A couple of them. All right, for one, I kind of already mentioned it, but 24 has an amazing plot twist throughout the whole series.
Right.
So it's a lot to commit to, though, because every episode's an hour long, and there's 24 episodes in each season, and there's 9 seasons. Technically 10 or 9.5. It's so much. No, I'm sorry. Technically 9.5. There's 8 seasons. Technically 9.5. There's 8 seasons and technically 8.5.
With 9.
If you carry the 1. No. All right. So now that that's over, Daredevil season 3, when you find out the lady, she shoots the guy across the table. You remember that scene?
No.
You don't? You've seen season 3, right?
Maybe.
Oh my gosh, dude! Did I just ruin it for you?
I don't know. I don't remember this at all. I don't even know what lady you're talking about. So
did you watch The Defenders?
Now I'm tempted to say, don't even tell me what lady, because now I don't know if I've seen season 3.
Season 3 is when you have the FBI agent.
Oh wait, it was after Defenders?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
Are you serious? You never saw Daredevil season 3?
No.
This is the first time, I think, ever
that you've seen something crazy in that realm
in Marvel. Yeah, because you're the super. Oh my! I feel so terrible that I just.
I don't know what you're talking about. So
okay,
I don't think it ruined anything. I have no idea. I couldn't even begin to imagine who you're talking about.
Daredevil 3 has 2. Daredevil season 3, that is, has 2 extremely good plot twists.
Okay.
The way that So I would recommend you need to watch it. You just got to. I don't.
We may have to do like a kind of a sequel to this where like we come up with a list of like we'll revisit this like in a few episodes or something where we've come up with compiled a list of like, okay, you watch this and this, I'll watch this and this. We come back and we'll Vanilla Sky this again where it's like, okay, what did you think of this?
Yeah.
Well, what did you think of this?
I can't believe you never saw the 3rd season because
I never watched Defenders and I
You never watched Defenders?
Because
okay, well you got to watch
Iron Fist, Luke Cage, and Jessica Jones were all kind of letdowns for me.
Fair.
So watching them team up, I was like, I don't really care that even Daredevil's in this. I don't think I'll enjoy it. So, and not to mention, it started getting a little formulaic to me where it was like in the first season of Daredevil, there was that epic hallway fight that everyone loved. So in season 2, they were like, oh, well, we'll ramp it up. And they did like the Punisher walking through the jail cell fight, which was similar. And they had another Daredevil hallway fight. And I was like, okay. Then in the Defenders, that was like their big selling point was, look, we got them all walking down a hallway doing a hallway fight. And I was like, okay, I'm sick of this. Like, come up with something new. Like, you got a group of people here and you're going to cram them all in a hallway. And 2 of them, their whole thing is they're just really strong. They're just going to be slamming people. Like,
yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'm over this. So I never watched Defenders. Then when season 3 of Daredevil was coming out, I was like, oh, finally, like, okay, I'll watch that. And then everyone was like, dude, the way it's going to pick up from Defenders. And I was like, oh man, I have to see Defenders to understand like where that picks up.
All right. Well, I understand that. I watched the first little bit of Jessica Jones, and then I never watched any of the spin-off shows after that, because I was like, I don't care about these characters. I watched Defenders just because I like Daredevil.
Mhm.
I don't actually mind the hallway fight scenes. Now that when you bring it up that way, it's like, yeah, it does get a little overwhelming, but they're also really cool. So
No, I mean, I'm not even saying they're done poorly.
there is another type of fight scene that takes that to a new level in season 3. So it might satisfy you there. It's kind of like a similar vibe as the hallway, but it's done on a new scale where it's like, darn. So I think you'll like season 3. You really don't have to watch Defenders. I actually really like Defenders.
Okay.
So, and this is coming from someone who agrees with you about the other shows. Iron Fist was super annoying. I did not like his character throughout that season. I mean,
that show, yeah.
But other than that, it was a pretty entertaining. It was a good classic Daredevil. But season 3 of Daredevil was the best of the 3. It was like,
wow,
so good.
That's high praise.
Yeah, because I loved that show. And then you don't really have to watch Defenders. You can if you want to, but I can just tell you, all that I'll tell you is that, would it be okay if I gave you just the tiniest minor spoiler of Defenders?
Of Defenders, sure.
Okay. Season 3 starts off, he's recovering from the last fight in Defenders, and it like kind of hurt him in a way that he doesn't think he can recover from. That's all you really need to know to start season 3. Pretty much nothing else ties into Defenders in the rest of the season.
Okay.
So you just need to know that he's recovering from that.
Okay.
I think that it's been like years since I watched the season, but so I might be a little bit wrong, but I know the core story and how it plays out. My only dislike with the season is there's a little chunk where they go veer off on this storyline that really is completely pointless. It's like, it gives you a little more information about one of the characters, but other than that, it was completely unnecessary, and I was so happy to be through with it. That's my only caveat to that season. But the rest of it, and the way it ends, the 2 plot twists are just like, blew my mind.
Okay.
And then the way it ends was like really, really cool.
So I'm assuming then you're very hyped for March.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Super. I love Daredevil. Like when the first season came out, I was like, this is awesome, because it felt like, and it wasn't part of the MCU at that point. It was just a Netflix TV show.
It was, but very lightly. Like they kept referring to the Avengers, the alien attack in Avengers as like the event, like, but they wouldn't name the Avengers. I think they named.
They did that
4.
in Daredevil in the first 2 seasons.
Well, in the first season.
So I don't remember that.
So the way it worked back then was like, Kevin Feige wanted everything to be connected, but the guy that was like over him would not give him control of the shows and stuff.
Oh.
And he was like, well, look, I can't have it be connected if I can't really control the narrative, because if y'all want to go one way and this larger thing, the movies, is going this way, which is why like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of stopped being quite as connected. Like there were major things going on in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that you never hear about in the movies.
Yeah.
Daredevil and stuff, like they're in New York, a lot more street level, but still some of it was serious enough where you'd think you'd at least hear something about someone. You never do. And a lot of that is because Kevin was like, look, if y'all are going to go like this way with it, we'll just say that they're lightly connected, but you don't really hear any hardcore. You hear a couple references, mostly I think in season 1, maybe to like Thor or like some main Avenger stuff, but that's it.
Okay.
But
I do think we need to start wrapping it up. We're coming up on time. So
okay. That threw me off. I was gonna ask you something else about Daredevil, but I can't remember. Oh well.
About the 3rd season?
It might have been, but I can't remember now. Oh well, no, it was a ask you about the 4th season. Just I guess, and I asked you, just asking if you were excited about it coming out, like Kingpin running for mayor and all that. Like, I think that's really going to tie in with Spider-Man stuff.
Okay. The only thing I'm not excited about is King. I'm tired of Kingpin. I don't like the actor who plays Kingpin in the Daredevil series.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think he does a good job.
That's a hot take.
I just he's like
That's a plot twist.
he's I feel like he's trying too hard to be like this sophisticated mob boss guy who like secretly likes the delicate things. It just it comes off to me as
I feel like
that
maybe
might-
you just don't like his cadence.
no, it's not that. I mean, I understand the character that they're going for, but it feels like he's trying to be that way. It doesn't feel like he's authentically that way.
Well, I'm saying, like, for me, the thing that pulls me out of him the most is, like, his voice, just how he talks.
Exactly.
It's not that I feel like he's, because that dude, Vincent D'Onofrio, is I've seen him in other stuff. He's
Yeah.
a phenomenal actor.
He's a great. I think it's
But
probably directing.
It's how he talks and as that character. I can't stand that, like, breathy, like, his cadence, just how he says sentences. I'm
Yeah.
like, I can't. Like, that's my one gripe with John Wick, going back to that. Keanu is not a good actor.
I agree with that actually.
He-
I love Keanu Reeves as a person,
Yeah.
and he makes some good movies.
Yeah.
But his acting is
He
a
has
little-
no range.
yeah
No vocal range. It's like I was just talking about this the other day with my family. I was saying, like, no matter if it's a scene that's supposed to be very relaxed and chill or a scene that's supposed to be very intense, his voice is always like right here, like
Yeah.
like on the edge of intense. It never gets more calm. Would you like some tea? But it never gets more intense. Like, you're gonna kill me. I'm gonna die. Like in John Wick 1, there's a scene where it's supposed to be like the scene, like the money shot of the trailer, where they're like, these people have him like tied up and they're like, oh yeah, we got you now. And it's like he's supposed to be yelling. He's like, yeah, I'm thinking I'm back. And it's like, dude, you gotta yell that.
Yeah.
Give it some oomph. Put a little, but yeah.
Sure.
Same with The Rock. The Rock sucks. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, there's plenty of. I have a whole list, man. We could keep going for, Inception,
Oh yeah, love Inception.
Bullet Train,
I never saw that.
phenomenal movie.
Okay.
Good, really very funny, man. Brad Pitt in that movie, hilarious. Fight Club,
Never saw Fight Club,
me either. Well, I've seen most of it, but like,
but you know the twist.
yeah, I know what happens throughout the whole thing. Like, do you know the twist?
I have heard it before, but I forgot it.
The Tyler Durden is really him. Like the
Oh,
Brad Pitt's character and Ed Norton's character he's like projecting he's not real.
have you ever seen Primal Fear?
Uh-uh.
Really good plot twist there.
Okay.
Hey, do you know what it's about?
Uh-uh.
It's
don't think.
Richard Gere. I think it's named Gere. That's his last name. And then Ed Norton.
Mm-hmm.
And Ed Norton is on trial. He's kind of this for committing this crime. I'm not going to say anything more than that because I don't. If you want to watch it, I don't want to spoil it for you. It's got a pretty good twist ending.
I got one for you that I know you're not gonna care about, but I think to me, this is one of my favorite ones. Prisoner of Azkaban.
Oh yeah,
Fantastic plot twist.
yeah.
To build up that villain the whole time, and then at the end, it's like, oh wait, he's actually not bad at all. Loved that. Gone Girl.
I never saw it. We tried to watch it, but it's just full of language and stuff, so we just turned it off.
Yeah, you probably should not watch The Gentleman.
Yeah.
If you couldn't handle Gone Girl, don't
Yeah.
watch it. I'm just gonna. We'll talk The Gentleman. I'll rewatch it and get a refresher on it, and I'll just tell you. I think you would enjoy knowing it, but don't watch it.
Honestly, I sometimes feel convicted for Vanilla Sky because of how like there's a lot of language and there's some stuff in there that's just like I really shouldn't be. But I was just so sucked in by the story. And
Yeah.
It was such a good story. What it makes me want to do is steal the idea and just create a good version.
Yeah.
A version of it without that stuff in it.
Split.
Oh yeah. That movie definitely has a plot twist, but I didn't like that movie.
I've never seen it, but everybody for months was talking about the plot twist, and I was like, I cannot watch this. Way too intense. I mean, it's not horror; it's a thriller.
Yeah.
But I was like, I can't handle that. My heart cannot handle watching these two girls like try and escape with their life. Like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
But I have to know what this plot twist is that everyone. And when I heard it, I was like, are you freaking kidding me? Because I've never seen Unbreakable.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's the plot twist?
Yeah.
That it's connected to a movie from the 90s?
Yeah.
Who cares? Who
I kind
cares?
of thought the same thing too. I was
Another
like,
bad actor, by the way.
James McAvoy?
No, God, no.
Bruce Willis?
Yes, Bruce Willis is not a good actor.
Really?
Not a good actor.
I don't think he's a great actor, but I think he's good for what he does. Have you ever seen The Kid?
Then so is The Rock. They're the same thing. He plays the same character in everything.
Yeah, but The Rock is not even really that good at that character.
I don't think Bruce Willis is.
Well, I'm not gonna really argue hard with that because he's not a fantastic actor.
I think
But I
he's
don't
just
think
got
he's a bad
he's got the
actor.
look.
Yeah,
He's got the look. But have you ever seen him in Friends?
in Friends, like the show.
Yeah.
No.
It's like cardboard. Like it's oh Lord.
Have you seen The Kid?
The Kid?
Well, I thought he did pretty good in that. That's like a comedy, lighthearted, feel good. It's like his kid from him as a kid shows up in his life, and he has to confront things from the past. You've never seen
Wait,
that movie?
are you sure that you're not talking about Looper?
No, it's definitely not Looper. It's
Okay.
called Disney's The Kid.
Okay. No, I haven't seen that.
Wow, that was like a big movie in the 90s. It was yeah, it's a good movie. And he's not like a fantastic actor, but he's good in that movie.
I think
I
Looper will be
believe.
another plot twist contender.
You know, I don't think I've seen. Is that the one with Hayden Christensen?
No, that's the one with Bruce
Oh,
Willis
Bruce Willis?
and
I'm thinking of Jumper.
the one the guy who plays like Robin in The Dark Knight Rises.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he plays like the younger version of himself.
Oh,
Bruce
okay.
Willis is the old version. Yeah.
Yeah. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, great actor.
I haven't seen him in enough to agree with that.
Have you seen 10 Things I Hate About You?
No.
Are you serious?
Mhm.
With Heath Ledger?
Mm-hmm. I haven't seen it.
Oh man, that movie is hilarious. It's slightly on the inappropriate side.
Well, a lot of comedies are.
That's true. But I mean, if you're talking about 10 is the worst, it's probably at like a 6 or 7. It's not terrible, but there are some scenes that are really funny.
Last one I'm gonna throw out.
All right.
Another scary movie that I have not seen. I wouldn't call it horror, but more of like a heavy thriller. Black Telephone.
Never even heard of it.
So it came out like a few years back. It stars is it Ethan Hawke? I think it's either Ethan Hawke or Kevin Bacon. I can't remember.
We're just like Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, people are gonna kill me for getting them confused. Anyway, one of them, he's like a magician in this like town, but he's like a real creepo, and he kidnaps this little boy and takes him and like locks him in his basement, and there is a black telephone, like a landline, on the wall down there. It's like the only thing in there. That and like a dirty mattress on the floor. And the kid, like when Ethan or whoever walks away, he like picks up the phone to try and call for help, and it's it doesn't work. It's like a dead phone. And he tells him through the door, he's like, the phone doesn't work. It hasn't for years. And then he walks away. And then like later in the movie, the phone rings, and the kid's like, what the heck? And he picks it up, and he's like, there's a voice on the other line. It's another kid. And he's like telling him, hey, you got to do this. You got to do blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, okay. And he hangs the phone. And then it like again later, and it keeps ringing. And it's these different kids. And they're like telling him like, dude, you got to do this, do that. And they're all giving him different directions. And what you find out is that they're all like ghosts of these other little boys who've been kidnapped by this guy. And they each got a step further in escaping before they died.
Wow.
And they're each giving him like their thing. Hey, now do this. Hey, now go here.
That's creepy.
And they're like helping him escape so that he can actually get out alive. And the whole time, there's a little girl who was friends with this boy, who she's like having these dreams that are like helping her lead the cops to the right place where this kid is locked up. Like she's almost like communicating with him via dream.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Wish I could handle it because it sounds very good, but I can't.
It's an interesting idea.
Something about kids getting kidnapped, because Split was the same. I was like, I can't do this.
You saw Sound of Freedom, right?
Yeah, but I didn't want to watch it.
Yeah, I don't.
My
blame you.
mom like made us all go as a family because she was like, "We're going to support this movie," which I was fine with. I was like, "Look, I'll buy a ticket. I just don't want to go watch it."
Yeah,
And she was like, "You're watching it." I was like, "Okay." So we went.
it was
And
hard, dude. It was
it was
hard to
actually
watch.
easier to watch than I thought it would be. But then I'm like thinking, then I don't know if it did its job because I feel like it should have been harder to watch than it was.
No, because it was for a different audience. This isn't an audience that you want to like. The goal isn't to make you feel sick and raw and like do
Right.
I mean, I'm kind of actually surprised to hear you say that because I actually did feel like it was hard to watch for me. Like there were some scenes that was like just made me sick to my stomach where I was like, it's based on a true story. That's the worst thing about it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm not sitting here saying like it was fun. I wasn't like,
Yeah, I know.
"Dude, this is dope. I want to go watch it again." Like, I mean, it wasn't like that. It was more just like, I'll put it like this. It's a problem, and I'm not saying it's a good thing, but because of what is normally put out there, I think myself and a lot of people have become somewhat desensitized to certain
That's
things.
fair.
And I think the bottom line is if you wanted it to hit home harder and like really drive home your point, you you want to toe a line,
Yeah.
but I think they should have towed it closer. I think like if the line's here, they were like here, and maybe they should have been like here. Like
Sure.
they got their point across. I'm not saying they didn't. Like you said, there's some scenes in it that are like this is hard to watch, but that should be the point. It should be hard to watch. It shouldn't be a movie that you walk away from going, "Oh, I've seen worse than that."
Yeah.
Well, you shouldn't because that's fake. This is real. Like this should make you come again, your point being there should be a message of hope, but it should hurt to watch that. And
Sure.
I came
it
away
did
from
hurt
it.
me. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
I think you're right though that like, but I also think that goes back to the audience. I don't think the kind of audience who was really going to that film is the kind that would be desensitized to stuff like that because they're not probably huge horror fans or.
well, I hate horror and I hate thrillers, which is why I
Well, they probably are the kind of people who wouldn't usually watch Vanilla Sky, you know.
maybe, but then I guess that's my whole thing. Of course, I guess no matter what they do, like however they package it, it was never going to reach the kind of audience that really needed to see it.
Sure.
But regardless, yeah, that's kind of my what came to mind for my plot twist list
Well, this has been a fantastic afternoon.
that started at 8 in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah, isn't that? Oh, yeah, I guess you got here like 8:30.
Yeah,
Yeah, you got here early.
yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, it has been. It's as always, it's been fun
Plot
rambling.
twists. If we missed any, tell us in the
Yeah,
comments.
please. I'm sure
Yeah.
there are a billion we'll think of as soon as we turn this stuff off. But yeah, please feel free to leave us comments. And our email
Oh, yeah.
is
It's a long one, all right, because every short option was already taken.
Right.
So, but it's just the name of the show, Storytime with Chris and Daniel.
64732-859-322211.
Don't listen. Just don't listen to anything he's saying. Storytime with Chris and Daniel at gmail.com. So you can email us and we'll read it. And don't send us hate mail, though, because we're people. We have
Please
feelings.
keep it tame, keep it respectful. But yeah, if you have any films, books, anything, games that like with stories that you'd want us to talk about, dissect, ideas for topics. If we missed anything that you'd like us to touch on, maybe I'm never opposed to doing a sequel episode of something. So
Definitely.
please reach out with your ideas.
I feel like you thought I was being 100% serious when I was like, "Don't send us hate mail," because you were like, "Yeah, let's keep it tame."
No, I mean I'm
Well,
being
you
for real.
Well, for sure, yeah.
I mean,
it's not like I want hate mail.
I was
but
gonna say
I
you could be critical without being hateful.
That's true. And if you're hateful, I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that.
Spam. This was clearly sitting to the wrong people.
Take this.
That was meant for story time with Daniel and Chris. I don't
Yeah.
know who those guys are.
Yeah. When Daniel runs things, it's just I understand hating that.
Yeah, right. If you weren't running it, this probably wouldn't happen.
Well, anyway.
He thought about it. He was like, he's right.
Yeah.
But seriously, thank you guys for tuning in again. Obviously, this time we're adding video. We hope to see it grow each time. You might see us in a few different spots, but we're trying to get this thing rolling and get it off the ground, and we're having a good time doing it. So
You sound like Dusty Slay. You know who that is?
mm-mm.
He's a comedian. His catchphrase is "We're having a good time."
Oh, okay.
It's pretty good. I love. I never thought, like, for some reason him just repeating it is hilarious. You know.
So for some reason I don't know anything about like catchphrases or anything, but
Oh.
get her done. I don't know.
There you go. You know.
Oh, that's one too.
Yeah, that was Larry the Cable Guys.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Well,
Anyway,
good morning, good afternoon, and good night.
you butchered that.
Is that one too?
You got me there.
I was
like,
trying to see
"You
how many I
seriously?"
could get before you were like, what in the world?
All right. Anyways, we'll catch you next time.